This truly is a thrill to be talking again to Kurt Kelty. Now, why is that a thrill? Well, first of all, if you know anything about electric vehicles, especially Tesla, you will know that he was really the first battery guy at Tesla. And given that's the fundamental of all electric vehicles, well, he is clearly a person of significance. I had the first opportunity only recently to meet Kurt in person, which was at the Gigafactory or Megafactory trip with Benchmark in Berlin a couple of months ago now. And here we are again now to have a quick, 10-15 minute chat about all sorts of things. So, Kurt, can we just spend, say, 4 or 5 minutes talking about that thing I just mentioned, where you've been, the fact that you were you certainly were one of the key players, I think employee number 13 at Tesla, were you?
A number 50 or 60. But yeah, Roger, I'm happy to be here, and thanks for inviting me. So I've been in the battery industry now for about 30 years, and I started off in Panasonic battery, with nickel metal hydride batteries, and then lithium ion came out, and stayed with Panasonic battery over that time. About half of those years were in Japan. And then I ended up joining Tesla in 2006. And I was the first battery hire, as you say. We had other engineers in the company already. My boss, the CTO, JB, he knew a tremendous amount about batteries. And my current boss, Gene, I interviewed with also at the time, and he was learning a lot about batteries at the time as well. But I came in, and my job really was to find a battery cell supplier. At the time, we were using batteries from ATL, and ATL was not the company then that they are now. Their batteries were atrocious at that point in terms of being consistent. They're now a very high-quality manufacturer, but at that time, they were still learning, and we couldn't get anybody to sell us batteries. It was a time where EVs were just not welcome by the battery industry because they were just considered so dangerous. What would happen with a lithium-ion cell going in thermal runaway? Those concerns are just were very significant. And so none of the major cell manufacturers wanted to sell to any of these startups. And there were a bunch of startups at that time that were doing EVs. And so my job was to come in there to Tesla and find a cell supplier that would work with us. And so I left Panasonic and I joined the startup, which I think everyone, my friends and family were questioning my logic there, how I could go from a very substantial job at Panasonic Battery doing where I had a nice future laid out for me to kind of jump ship and join a startup that, as I say, had 50 or 60 people at the time and was unproven. But what they did have, they had a great concept in this Roadster vehicle. They had some great engineers. I had been talking at Panasonic. I talked to a bunch of these EV startups, and they were missing things. And where I would ask them questions like, "What happens in this particular case?" And they wouldn't have answers. And when I approached Tesla and the JB, with Gene, some of the other guys, Scott, and I would ask them questions, and they already knew. They knew about the issue, and they either had a solution for it, or they had a process where they were going to develop a solution for it. Whether it was minimizing thermal runaway, minimizing propagation, there's cell imbalancing issues. They knew the issues, and it was so refreshing to talk to a group of folks that actually knew what they were talking about. It's like, oh man, I want to work with these guys.
Yeah,
that's when I made the big change.
And having this extraordinary can-do, sense of things, that, anything was possible. And even if you weren't equipped with the ability to do it at the time, you could do it. And to me, the story of Tesla very much it feels like that Kennedy speech, the Rice speech, where he talked about landing a man on the moon within the decade using metallurgy that hadn't been invented and so on and so forth. It was this real leap, this leap forward stuff that clearly, Elon has inspired in so many people. And I imagine working for him or working anywhere in his orbit is both in equal measure hugely inspiring and equally terrifying because he's just a machine. I mean, he talks about machines a lot, but he's like he's the closest to a human machine in many ways, in regard to his output, his intellect, and I think more than anything else, to my mind, the inspiration he has to both the people in his companies, and all of us beyond. Is he a flawed human being? Of course he is, because he isn't a machine. He's a person. But I think, I just have huge respect for everything that's happened there. But yes, to have been part of that, Kurt, this is amazing. So part of the impressive team to bring the battery together, then of course, absolutely fundamentally at the core of getting the gigafactory proposition together and up and running, given your Panasonic background, that's obvious. But can we talk about what you're doing now? Because, Sila is a company that I think people in the industry, certainly those that are very close to batteries, are well aware of. But can you give people watching this who perhaps don't know too much about Sila nanotechnology exactly what you do?
Yeah, so at Sila, we've developed a silicon anode material that gives about a 20% increase in energy density compared to cells using graphite. It's been known for years that silicon is the future on the anode side, and the challenge has been controlling the swell. If you get too much swell, then it reduces cycle life, and therefore it's just not usable. What we've been able to do is come up with a material and you can imagine a particle, and the silicon is inside it, and the silicon swells just like it normally would. You can't control the swelling of the silicon, but it's contained within this particle. And within this particle, then you can have the lithium penetrate it, but the electrolyte does not. And so that's the basic concept of it. And it's been over 10 years in development and over 50 or 60,000 iterations of the material that we've made till we've gotten to the point now where we really feel comfortable with what we've got. And we're shipping the product now. You can see what I'm wearing now. It's a Whoop fitness tracker. And this has been shipping since September last year. We've probably got about 1 million devices in the market right now. So we've got product in market. And we've got validation efforts with multiple OEMs. Because the target here is not to just do a fitness tracker. I mean, that's important for us. But really, what we want to do is get huge volumes and really get more EVs sold. And you get more EVs sold by increasing the performance of them, whether it's driving range or the other thing is getting faster charge on the vehicles. And so those are real selling features. And we're engaged with most of the OEMs right now. And all but one of the major large cell manufacturers. So we're dealing with each one of these now and in validation for multiple projects. And then we've got our factory is we actually just announced it about 2 hours ago, our first factory.
Wow, congratulations.
On EV. So yeah, no, good timing on the call here. So we're going to be located up in Moses Lake, Washington, which is it's just east of Spokane, Washington.
Yeah, I know where that is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we've got a massive facility there, I think 600,000 square feet or so, that we'll be populating with all of our equipment. And then we'll be shipping that. First powder will come out in 2024 and then shipping in 2025. It's all renewable energy. It's all hydro, the energy there. So it's clean, made in America. It's really exciting. It's an exciting day for us because we've been working on this for quite some time. And finally, today was the big announcement. And we've got some other announcements coming up soon. But it's a big one for us to share that with the rest of the world.
Wow. Well, as I say, many congratulations. And you mentioned that part of the world. I happened to be there recently up in Wenatchee in Washington State. Because the hydro proposition there was working very nicely with the electric buses that were actually being wirelessly charged. So that's kind of a real almost end-to-end solution in terms of clean tech. It was great to see, but it's an amazing part of the world, as you say. So it's a beautiful part of the world as well. So I think that will lend itself very well to one thing I'm not going to get into talking too much about, but there are supply chain challenges in all sorts of aspects, and I suppose in most industries these days for lots of reasons. But finding the right people is often tricky. But if you're in a lovely part of the world where the lifestyle and the quality of living is good, and maybe it's not too crazily expensive as well to live, then I think I guess you've gone through the ingredients in selecting this, so I don't need to replay them back to you.
There is silicon in the market today in ratios of like 3 to 5%. Panasonic uses that in the cells for Tesla, but you can't go more than that because of the swell issues. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is our material is actually a complete replacement. So we eliminate the graphite, so it's 100% our material that's in there. You can also do what we call a blend, where you mix it in. So let's say you want 50% of the capacity to come from the silicon, or 80% from the silicon. We can do different blends, but we can also replace it completely. And there's advantages and disadvantages. Like batteries are usually a bunch of trade-offs. And one of the things that's really great about our material is you're able to get higher energy density without any trade-offs. So you can replace the graphite completely and really get a great energy density boost, but you can also get a fast charge boost with it while keeping cycle life the same and your storage performance characteristics the same. So it really is a great for the rest of the decade. If you look at what's going to be changing in the battery cells, it's really on the anode. That's the big thing, going to silicon, and then there's work on the cathode side as well. There's all sorts of, you can't increase the nickel much beyond where it is today. There's things that are there's research being done on eliminating the cobalt, potentially reducing the nickel because of the cost there. So there is some work on the cathode, but you're not going to get the big increase in energy density that you're going to get by changing the anode out to a silicon anode. So that is really the big technology for pretty much the rest of the decade that we can count on. And we're going to keep increasing. So we've got a 20% increase in energy density today, but we've got some more other materials in development that are going to get us even further than that.
Right. And what you've explained there, certainly in my just interpretation, maybe simplistic, is that the answer to the question, what's the best battery chemistry, or the answer to the question about many things about EVs is, well, it depends. It depends on the duty cycle. It depends what you want it to do. So that there's not a kind of, one size fits all thing. And I'm intrigued and sort of quite mildly amused by the resurgence of LFP, quite frankly, because way back at Modec, I don't know if that was a company that was ever on your radar, but a little startup called Modec, where we were using LFP batteries, LFP, no C, no cobalt in them, but and they were reliable for the duty cycle that they went for, which was typically home delivery trucks with UPS and FedEx, etc. They weren't performance vehicles, of course, or anything like that. So the requirements were what they were, and they suited that duty cycle, that business case extremely well. So yeah, it's I know the gist of some of these things, but when it comes down to deep dive technical stuff, honestly, I just sit listening in awe to people like yourself and a lot of the people in Simon Moore's orbit, from Benchmark, etc. But look, I'd love to record, if you can find the time at one point, a longer conversation, like a podcast for maybe an hour. This is by way of an introduction to people of you and Sela. So look, thank you for your time. I wish you well. And I'm a bit starstruck. I hope that doesn't sound a bit weird, but having been in the EV industry for 20 years, I know the people that have made the difference and the people that are, particularly significant players. And you are one of those, Mr. Kurt Kelty. So thank you so much for your time.